Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, we can start.
Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees to our Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call of our Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta summary sessions. And today at another chapter summary of 42, and we are eagerly waiting for Bhagavti Vasudha Mataji to give this chapter summary. So before handing over the call to Bhagavati Mataji, I would like to read the quote of Srila Prabhupada for the day. So 16th September, the holy name, chanting of the holy name, if we act it properly, without any offense, then we are directly in connection with Krishna. Hari Bol. Vrindavan, September 16, 1976. So with this quote, Mataji, now I would like to hand over the call to Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji for Lilamrta chapter 42 summary. So please take over the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much for this opportunity to read Lilamrta chapter glorifying Srila Prabhupada. And let us start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadi Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. This is chapter 42 from volume 2, titled Developing Mayapur. So this is happening in the year 1973 in Mayapur. Mayapur is not yet developed. It is now starting, construction is getting to start. So I will read few paragraphs which was very interesting and had very valuable, important points to remember. So Mayapur, June 1st, 1972. Although the Mayapur building was not yet completed, Prabhupada had come there to reside. He took 2 adjoining rooms, one has a study and one has his bedroom on the 2nd floor. Meanwhile, construction work continued in the temple room and in other parts of the building. On Prabhupada's first day there, a storm struck with massive black clouds and high winds. The storm was brief, however, and damage was minimal. So as there are no buildings around, the field was so empty, there was so much storm on and off coming. But Prabhupada used to actually enjoy it, those breeze. I'll continue. I have just now come to Mayapur and am very hopeful to regain my strength and health on account of being in this transcendental atmosphere. Every moment we are passing here in great delight. In the evening, the temple pujari, Jananivasa, would come to Prabhupada's room with a clay pot of red coals and frankincense and fan the frankincense until the room was filled with smoke. This was to drive out insects, but Prabhupada also considered it purifying. Although he was sometimes disturbed by the workers hammering, he found the atmosphere otherwise peaceful. Only a few devotees were staying there, and Prabhupada gave his attention to translating or to speaking with guests and to the devotees in charge of developing his Mayapur center. He would express his desires, especially to Bhavananda Maharaja and Jayapataka Swami Maharaja, and worked his will through them. The devotees living in the building with Prabhupada considered themselves menial servants in Prabhupada's personal house. Of course, all the buildings in ISKCON belonged to Prabhupada, yet in Mayapur, that sense was intensified. Generally, the devotees in each particular center would raise money to support their center, but Prabhupada personally took charge of getting funds for Mayapur. He had begun a Mayapur Vrindavan Trust Fund of donations from his disciples and interest from bonds and security deposit. If money was misspent, energy misused, or the building damaged in any way, Prabhupada would become very concerned. Now that he was personally on the scene, he often walked about giving detailed instruction and demanding that discrepancies he corrected. The pink and reddish building was like a huge transcendental ship, and Srila Prabhupada, as captain, would walk the wide verandas, giving strict orders to all maids for keeping everything ship-shape. So usually all the temples would be managed by the fund they get in that temple. But Srila Prabhupada for Mayapur, he created a trust and he was using the donations for developing Mayapur, basically for Mayapur and Vrindavan. And so here, and as I was telling, there will be a lot of storms. One day there was a lot of storm, and that time, like one of the disciples, Satadanya, he would come inside and he will actually try to close all the windows, but Prabhupada will tell not to close, let it be open. Because he will tell that he's feeling the environment of, it's like Vrindavan breeze, like that. And also, as we read, Srila Prabhupada was not at all happy wasting the money or Krishna's energy like that. So there was one incident, like one room, the inside the fan was on and it was not, no one was there in the room, but they didn't switch off the fan. So Prabhupada, when he came that, he suddenly asked, like, who has done this? Then Satadanya didn't know, like, who did this. Like, then Srila Prabhupada would tell, who has done this? He is a rascal. You should know he is a rascal. For like that, for 2 days after that also, he was continued to remember that incident, and he was telling that we shouldn't waste the energies of Krishna. Then I'll read after a few paragraphs. Prabhupada felt affection and deep gratitude for those devotees dedicating their lives to the Mayapur project. One night he called Bhavananda to his room and began asking him about the devotees. Suddenly Prabhupada began crying. I know it is difficult for all of you Western boys and girls, he said. You are so dedicated, serving here in my mission. I know you cannot even get prasadam. When I think that you cannot even get milk and that you have given up your opulent life to come here and you do not complain, I am very much indebted to all of you. So suddenly Prabhupada felt this emotion because the Mayapur was totally not developed, and Prabhupada all disciples were actually being in that discomfort situation, still helping Prabhupada in all the projects, working so hard. Suddenly, actually, Srila Prabhupada began to cry and he was so happy. From the heart, he was telling that I am very much indebted to all of your sincerity and seva. Avananda. The marble workers lived in some chatai houses right near the construction site. There was a hand pump just outside the building. So this was the situation Bhavananda Prabhu was telling. And that's where we took our bath and where the workers got the water for the cement. Some distance off were two toilets, one for the men, one for the women. It was just two holes in the ground and each hole surrounded by a chatai wall. The storms and the rain would come, and we would have to sludge through the mud in the fields to go to the. There were snakes all over the place. It was wild. It was a construction site. No one lives on a construction site, but we did. Srila Prabhupada made us move in there. It was good for us. No bathrooms, nothing, just open floors with concrete. Again, Bhavananda was telling, Bhavananda Prabhu was telling, like we were able to face up to so many difficulties because we just took it as our order from Srila Prabhupada. Why they were able to go through all these things? Because they just took it as spiritual master's order. There was no conception of ever leaving. What else would I do? This was my order. Take Mayapur. I am giving you Mayapur. Take it, develop it, and enjoy it. There was no question in our minds of going somewhere else. So Prabhupada is often used to tell these statements to the Mayapur management and devotees there. I have given the spiritual world, develop it. Like he would be very strict at some times, and sometimes Srila Prabhupada would show his love to the disciples very intimately. So they were actually very happy with both the things. So, this is one incident. More often, however, Srila Prabhupada displayed a rose-like softness and intimate, informal, and affectionate nature. The holy dham of Mayapur was the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavana. So the devotees there were living with Prabhupada in the spiritual world more than most any other place in the world. The devotees living in Mayapur knew they could walk into Prabhupada's room and see him. He sometimes even walked into their rooms. Srila Prabhupada would also suddenly go into some of the disciples' room. While they were working, reading, or talking, he might suddenly walk in and speak with them, asking how they felt and how they were adjusting to living in India. It is difficult living here, he would ask. I think India is too hot. What do you think? Like that, Prabhupada would start conversation to make them feel good. Even with the building incomplete, many guests were coming. So even in that condition, so many people will come and go, but Srila Prabhupada would take care of them very nicely. For example, one of the wealthy Hindu man, Mr. Brijratan Mohatan, and his wife, a daughter of multimillionaire R.D. Brilla, visited Prabhupada from Calcutta. Srila Prabhupada took care in properly hosting his guest, and he personally reviewed the menu and briefed his disciples on serving Mr. Mohat and his wife. Offering prasadam was an important part of the Vaishnava etiquette, and Srila Prabhupada always stressed that the devotees immediately offer prasadam to visitors. So they were actually multi-billionaires, and Prabhupada gave them a small place in still incompleted room, but he made all the facilities. He decided the menu. He said, like, you have to make hot puris, eggplant sabji, sweets, all these things should be, whatever should be cooked, everything he said, how should be how they should serve them, everything he instructed, and they were taken care, and they were actually given only some mattress on the floor with a pillow. And yet, because of Srila Prabhupada's love, they felt very much satisfied and they appreciated it. Bhavananda. Srila Prabhupada introduced us to many of the details of Indian culture at Mayapur. He had us put down mattress covered with sheets in his room. In 1917, Los Angeles, he had asked me to sew sheet together to make a covering for the rug in his room. And then he had gotten down on his hands and knees right next to me, and we had smoothed out the wrinkles in the sheet. So he had us to do that same thing in Mayapur, where we put mattress from one end of the room to the other with bolster pillows against the wall. Now you have white sheet covers, he said, and you change these every day. When Bengali gentlemen visited Srila Prabhupada in his room, they would sit on these mattress around the edge of the room, their backs against the bolster pillow. So like that, they will arrange a new cloth and they will just sit on that cloth and they will have their meetings, discussion, everything. The Mayapur city, Prabhupada said, would be the fulfillment of the desires of the previous acharyas. The city would grow to a population of 50,000 and would become the spiritual capital of the world. So Prabhupada is telling how he is, what is his plan. Before even the construction is completed, everyone are still in this minimal facility. Prabhupada is telling all these things. With its gigantic temple in the center and separate quarters for Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, the city would be a model for all other cities. The day would come when the world's cities would be ruined and humanity would take refuge in cities modeled after Mayapur. The development of Mayapur would mark the beginning of a Krishna conscious world. Thus, the influence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would increase and his predictions would manifest. In every town and village, my name will be chanted. Like that Prabhupada was telling, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's predictions would come true. Prabhupada said that Mayapur should eventually become more easily accessible by bridge from Navadvipa, by motor launch, up the Ganges from Calcutta, and from all parts by air. In Bengal, millions were by birth followers of Lord Chaitanya, and they would recognize and take up Krishna consciousness as the pure form of their own culture. There is a saying, what Bengal does, the rest of India follows. So if Bengal become reformed and purified by Krishna conscious, example of American Vaishnavas, then all India would follow. And when all India become Krishna conscious, the whole world would follow. I have given you the kingdom of God, Prabhupada said to his Mayapur managers. Now take it, develop it, and enjoy it. Throughout the month, like in that month while he was there in Mayapur, like this, once Prabhupada was standing on the rooftop, like Prabhupada stood on the roof of this Mayapur building looking over the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, less than a mile away. Actually, he said to Bhavananda Maharaj, their climb to the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not very important. Is Krishna famous for having been born in Mathura? No, he is famous for his activities. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not famous for having been born in Mayapur. He is famous for his activities, for his Sankirtana preaching. This Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir is the preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I want a place that is so attractive because of the activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that everyone will come here. So because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace was little far away from the Chandrodaya Mandir, so Chaitanya Prabhupada is telling that Like even for Krishna, Mathura, where Krishna was born, is not famous, but where he did Leela, Vrindavan is famous. Similarly, for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is not the place where he is born is more important. Where he did his Sankirtana, that is important. So this Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir is that place where Sankirtana, where preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is happened. Yeah. Decades ago, Prabhupada had written essays based on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and over the years, he had translated some of the verses and written purports to them. Then in America, in 1968, he had completed teachings of Lord Chaitanya, a summary study based on certain important passage of Chaitanya Charitamrita. During his stay in Mayapur, however, he began a translation and commentary of Krishnadas Kaviraja's Chaitanya Charitamrita, beginning with the 7th chapter. As he progressed, he found a wonderful momentum and said he would publish a volume starting with chapter 7 for Lord Chaitanya's appearance day in March. Deciding to complete the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, he suspended his work on Srimad Bhagavatam. So like this, he wanted to complete Chaitanya Charitamrita faster, so he even for time being temporarily stopped his work on Srimad Bhagavatam. Although the members of Panchatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed the contents, there was no scarcity, for this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. The flood of love of Godhead swelled in all directions, and thus young men, old men, women, children were all immersed in that inundation. The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world and drown everyone, whether one be a gentleman, a rogue, or even lame, invalid, or blind. When the first 5 members of the Panchatattva saw the entire world drowned in love of Godhead and the seed of material enjoyment in the living entities completely destroyed, they all become exceedingly happy. The more the 5 members of Panchatattva caused the rains of love of Godhead to fall, the more the inundation increased and spread all over the world. This was Srila Prabhupada's spirit in training young men and women in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he was offering these words of Lord Chaitanya to strengthen all the Lord's devotees. So often he used to tell all these statements to make them inspired, spiritually enlightened. The members of the Lord Sri Krishna consciousness movement would be confident that by preaching purely, they would meet with success. Prabhupada was confident. Here were the words of Shastra, words spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Prabhupada's personal experience confirmed the same. Thus he could write, our Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly and no one provided for our livelihood. But at present, we are spreading hundreds and thousands of dollars all over the world and the movement is increasing more and more. Although jealous person may be envious, if we stick to our principles and follow the footsteps of the Panchatattva, this movement will go on unchecked by imitation swamis, sannyasis, religionists, philosophers, or scientists, for it is transcendental to all material consideration. Therefore, those who propagate the Krishna consciousness movement should not be afraid of such rascals and fools. Yeah. In the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela, Prabhupada found many other evidences authorizing ISKCON. So Prabhupada would tell while he was translating the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he is putting this, like he would tell that there is words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the establishment of ISKCON. I'll just read that. In the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela, Prabhupada found many other evidences authorizing ISKCON under the principles of Lord Chaitanya's teaching and activities. Krishnadasa Kaviraja says that Lord Chaitanya's taking sannyasa was a trick for delivering certain classes of society who would otherwise not have shown him respect. Prabhupada, in his commentary, explained that he also had devised schemes for offering the benefits of Krishna consciousness to as wide a spectrum of society as possible. And he cited his acceptance of women into the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, it is a principle, he wrote, that a preacher must strictly follow the rules and regulations laid down in the Shastra, yet at the same time devise a means by which the preaching work to reclaim the fallen may go on with full force. Then later on, in June 27, 1973, Srila Prabhupada's sister would come there. Srila Prabhupada's sister, Bhavadharini, known as Pishima to Srila Prabhupada's disciples, would also visit the Calcutta temple. Actually, Prabhupada will move to Calcutta in June 27, 1973. And he also wrote to Tamala Krishna Goswami Maharaj that he has a plan that he will go to Calcutta, and after some time he will go to London. And that time, like when he was in Calcutta, Prabhupada's sister will come and meet Srila Prabhupada. Bhavadani, known as Pishima to Prabhupada's disciple, would also visit the Calcutta temple to see her beloved brother, and as usual to cook for him. One day, however, a few hours after eating her kachoris, Prabhupada felt sharp pains in his stomach. He closed his doors and went to bed. His followers became very concerned. When his servant Shrutakirti came into the room, he found him tossing. So actually, Prabhupada's health was not very good. So when Prabhupada's sister came and prepared nice oily kachoris, he had little bit stomach problem, and he told that coconut kachori which my sister cooked was not properly cooked, was not cooked fully. So it has created some stomach upset. So he will Prabhupada will suffer little like blood diarrhea. Then some doctors also will come. Then he will tell like it is they have to take to the it will be very tough for him. Then he will become more ill. The old Kaviraj came, he's a doctor, Kaviraj, came and diagnosed Prabhupada's illness as severe blood dysentery. He left medicine, but it was ineffectual. So then what to do? Then Prabhupada would tell, like he will tell Bhavananda to go and make fried puris with a little patala. That is an Indian vegetable similar to a small squash, and salt. Then Bhavananda Prabhu would be shocked. What is this? Like already Prabhupada in such a illness, and he's telling to go and make some fried puris. Then he will protest actually. Such it was not good for your health in the present condition with blood dysentery and all that. Then Prabhupada would tell that my mother had given me when I was in my childhood, when I had such problems, she has given me. So he will insist. Then he then called his sister and speaking to her in Bengali, told her to prepare that puri and patala. So like a few hours after that, taking that food, Prabhupada will again call Bhavananda and he will tell like he was feeling better. Yes, my mother was right. Like that he will remark. Srila Prabhupada. So calling in those GBC secretaries and sannyasis with him in Calcutta, sitting up in bed while they sat before him on the floor, Prabhupada asked their advice. they concluded that he should go to a healthier climate. So because of this condition, they all will make a meeting and they will tell, let him go to a healthier climate, Los Angeles or Hawaii, to rest and recuperate. Prabhupada mildly agreed as his advisor decided Hawaii would be the best place, a place where the climate was ideal and where he would have few interruptions. Suddenly, however, he sat up straighter. He would return to the West, he said, but to London, not to Hawaii, and not to recuperate, but to preach. So then he thought that, like, just to make my health better, why should I cancel my plan of going to London and all that? So suddenly Prabhupada will tell, no, I'm going to London. Yes, I will go. I'll have my own time. I will be able to recuperate there, but with the addition of preaching. Like that, he will change the plan and he will tell them to make all the arrangements. London, July 7, 1973. So after reaching there. Paravida, it was Ratha Yatra day. I saw Prabhupada coming into the temple and he didn't look very strong. I was really amazed, but I could understand that his strength was something spiritual. In such a sick condition, he is coming out of India to some place to recuperate, but that was a Rath Yatra day, and they all were expecting Prabhupada to climb on the Rath Yatra and sit near the deity and give come in the Rath. But what really happened is Prabhupada did not sit there. He started walking in front of the Rath and he started dancing. Dhruvanatha. I twisted my ankle and couldn't walk, so I rode on the cart. Therefore, I could see Prabhupada very clearly. Revati Nandana Maharaja was chanting into the microphone from the cart. But after about 15 minutes of the procession, Prabhupada told the devotees to tell Revati Nandan Maharaj and the others to come down and lead the kirtan in the street with them. So Prabhupada called others also who were sitting there to come down and do the chanting to the kirtan. Revati Nandan. When Prabhupada saw his Vyasasana on the cart, he said, no, I am just a devotee. I will go in the procession. We had a big, great kirtan. Hamsaduta led, I led, Shamasundara led. Different devotees traded off, leading this fantastic kirtan. And Prabhupada was right in the middle of the kirtan with his kartalas. The whole time he was dancing back and forth and jumping up and down and dancing. Rohini Nandan. The cart was going quite slowly. Prabhupada walked about 20 or 30 yards ahead of the cart, leading the procession. So Prabhupada was in full enthusiasm. He is actually moving faster than the cart. They are not able to pull the cart in the speed of Srila Prabhupada. Saradiya Dasi. Prabhupada would dance, and then after a few feet, he would turn around and look up at the deities with his arm raised. Then he would dance for a few moments, meditating on the deities, and then he would turn around and go on. In this way, he danced the entire way. The devotees held hands in a circle around him to protect him from the crowd. It was a wonderful transcendental affair. Prabhupada was looking up at the deities, and all the devotees were behind him. So like that, he would dance and he will suddenly look at the deities, raise his hands and tell Hari Bol. Several times he would do like this and then again dance and walk in the crowd. Actually, all were encouraged. Prabhupada would encourage everyone to come and dance and everyone were actually amazed to look at such a 70-year-old man dancing like a young small boy with so much amazement and delight. Everyone were so much surprised and everyone looking at him were getting so much enthused and energized to dance. So what happened is, like at that time, after a while, a policeman will come and he will motion that, like, if it is going on like this, then we cannot control the crowd. So ask your leader to stop dancing. So then actually no one would go and tell Srila Prabhupada that stop dancing. It will go on. Then again that a policeman will come and tell, please go and tell. So then what happens, like they will slowly come and tell, like but Prabhupada looked at like who will tell is yeah, he will tell, one devotee will go, they say you are creating havoc in the parade. Then Prabhupada would looked at him, he turned and kept on. He completely ignored it and kept on dancing, and they couldn't do anything. Prabhupada wouldn't stop, and the police wouldn't say anything to him. So the Prabhupada police was insisting because they didn't go and inform him. Now he saw them going and telling Prabhupada, but still Prabhupada is not stopping. So now he also couldn't do anything. So the procession was going on, and Prabhupada was dancing, and everyone were happily dancing. And after all this Rath Yatra, in the next day, in the newspaper, it is coming. Next day, the papers carried favorable news coverages of the festival, and Prabhupada wrote of it to a disciple in Los Angeles. So after seeing the newspaper and all that, he is writing to one of the disciple in Los Angeles. You will be glad to know the Rath Yatra in London was very successful. The Daily Guardian had a picture on the front page of our cart and stated that we were computation to the monument in memory of Lord Nelson in Trafalgar Square. My health is good and I am taking daily walk and speaking at the class in the morning. So like that, Prabhupada was so happy for that Rath Yatra festival, and he was writing about it to inform everyone, to give this spiritual enlightenment to others also. So then there will be a letter from Bhaktivedanta Manor from London, Paris. Actually, they will request him to come there and install the deities of Radha Krishna on the day of Janmashtami. So then Prabhupada would agree to it, and he would plan to go there. But while he was here, Shyamasundara would have arranged so many visitors to come and have interview with Prabhupada, so that they will come to know about Srimad Bhagavatam, Gita, about ISKCON. All such arrangements were done, and he was so busy. In spite of taking care of health, he was recuperating, and he was meeting all the peoples also and talking about the philosophy and the movement. And Prabhupada was always eager to glorify Krishna and repeat Krishna's message. So wherever he was doing that. Enthusiastic freshness, he would present again the same point he had presented many, many times before. He said he was like a cow that gives milk in any field. Put him in India or America or England, he would always give the same nectarian milk of Bhagavad Gita. This was the nature of Srila Prabhupada. Then one British citizen would be coming, and the arrangement for meeting Prabhupada would be done. The devotees had invited many prominent British citizens to meet Srila Prabhupada, and the response were good. Economist Ernst Schumacher promised to visit, and did philosopher Sir Alfred J. Iyer. When Shyamasundara informed Prabhupada that Mr. Iyer was well known, Prabhupada replied, what is his philosophy? Well, Shyamasundara replied, he doesn't believe in the existence of God. I will give him evidence, Prabhupada replied. I will ask him what he means by the existence of God. I will ask him to make a list of the deficiencies of God's existence. Prabhupada liked to meet with philosophical men and corner them and defeat them. So this was very interesting to Srila Prabhupada, and he would call such people and he would talk with them and he will defeat them. Yeah, then Arnold Toynbee, he is one of the person. In India, did the politicians keep the Vedas? Prabhupada. No, they knew them away. They threw them away. Present Indian politicians are not very satisfied with the Vedas. They threw them in the water. I have started among the Indians and Americans, and for the next 10,000 years, Krishna consciousness will increase. Then there will be gloomy picture of Kali Yuga. Then 10,000 years is not a short time. It is our duty on behalf of Krishna. Arnold Toynbee. Do you travel much? Srila Prabhupada. All over the world. A bearded young priest active in social service visited Prabhupada and upon Prabhupada's prodding, debated with him about meat eating and the Bible. During the discussion, Hamsaduta and Pradyumna were citing passages from Bible against meat eating. So, like discussion was going on, Hamsaduta and Pradyumna would tell some points that even in Bible they have said meat eating is not good. Then after they left, actually Prabhupada would not tell anything, but after they left, Prabhupada would tell Hamsaduta uh, 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 and Pradyumna that why you have to quote from the Bible. We have enough evidences from our shastras, so always quote from our shastras, because if you quote from Bible and again they will find one more quote from the Bible and tell that meat eating is allowed. So always stick to our shastric evidences. Like that, Prabhupada would slowly tell them after the person left. So Prabhupada would not change anything for the people. He was always sticking to the standard and he was speaking the same thing from the Shastras to everyone. And because of his purity and potency, people were taking Krishna consciousness. So like that, there were a lot of conversations with so many different because in London, like such arrangements were made to meet so many great people, and Prabhupada would happily like as a game he would talk to them and debate them and then corner them. Yeah, so now comes the Paris deities installation. So after the 1 month passed like this, after the Janmashtami and all, then now Prabhupada is going to Paris. Paris, August 9, 1973. The devotees had arranged an official city hall reception for Srila Prabhupada. In the presence of the mayor of Paris and his government entourage, Srila Prabhupada said that if the government leaders do not teach the citizens genuine God consciousness, then they are not responsible leaders. Reporting this talk in the next day's paper, a news writer stated that the Swami even criticized Napoleon Bonaparte. So Prabhupada was so bold that wherever he was straightforward telling that how important is Krishna consciousness. Bhagavan, we had just moved into our new temple at 4 Rue Skew, Paris, and we had received 48-inch Radha and Krishna deities. Prabhupada had Pradyumna chanting the mantras and pouring the substances on the deity, while the Prabhupada himself looked on from his Vyasasana, giving direction. I was assisting, and at one point I turned around and saw Srila Prabhupada standing right next to me, taking the substance in his own hands and smearing them over the lotus-like face of Srimati Radharani. After the deities were installed on the altar, Srila Prabhupada came up and offered the arati, and I assisted him by handing him the articles. After the installation, we went up to Srila Prabhupada's room and very anxiously requested him to please give a name for the deities. He sat back in his chair and said that the deities will be known as Radha Paris Ishwara. He gave this name and he also told very nice statements. Like he then went on to say that in India, people look to England for education. and to Paris for sense gratification. He began to laugh and said that Krishna has come to Paris in order to get some gopis, some French gopis, because the faces of the women in Paris are considered the most beautiful. Radharani is so beautiful, Prabhupada said, just like a Paris girl. And Krishna has come here to find out this most beautiful of all the gopis, so he is Paris Ishvara. So like that, Prabhupada gave this name and he explained the reason also, like considering the faces of Paris girls are the most beautiful in the world. So Krishna has come here to find out the most beautiful gopi. Next, August 15, Prabhupada returned to London. After this installation, he is going back to London. And the latest mail from India. A legal complication had arisen regarding the deed for ISKCON's land in Hyderabad. Prabhupada wrote his disciple Mahamsha, cautioning him to avoid becoming entangled in another Bombay affair. So we would have come across that how what is the situation of Bombay, Hare Krishna land right now, because it was so much a problem. So now looking at this letter, Prabhupada is telling, at least now in Hyderabad, they must be very careful. We should not get into one more episode of Bombay affair again. When Prabhupada also received word that the temple construction was progressing in Vrindavana, he replied, I am pleased to hear how you are completely absorbed in the project of our Vrindavan temple and taxing your brain how it can be carried out. I am also always praying to Krishna that he may give you intelligence to carry it out rightly. Yes, Mayapur construction must be completely finished before I return. The next time I come there must be no more workers or carpenters with their tuck-tuck sound. I would have continued to stay in Mayapur, but the hammering sound drew me away. When you are completely finished, I will go there, otherwise not. So like that, Prabhupada is telling to complete the construction, make the project vigorous and do the work fast. So like that, he's writing letter to Vrindavan. They were happy. Prabhupada was happy for the construction very nicely going on Vrindavan temple, and then now Mayapur. Because it was very tough for Srila Prabhupada to build temple in India compared to establishing temples in America and other places. So every project in India, Mayapur project, Bombay project, Vrindavan project, everything gave a very tough time. So now next part will be about a little bit about situation in India. The Krishna consciousness movement was now big with potential for growing much bigger. And within ISKCON, Prabhupada's will was so powerful that a single letter from him would establish a policy for years to come. So people on those days, like phone and all were not there. So when a single letter comes from Srila Prabhupada, that will be their main policy for the whole year. Prabhupada appeared to be sitting quietly in his room at the manor, following his daily routine of bathing, eating, and meeting evening guests. Yet at the same time, he was directing thousands of young men and women all over the world and sending them into action in the war against Maya. Like he was sitting in one place, but all the work was happening by communication through letters. One second. In America now, Prabhupada's preaching was primarily through the distribution of his books, whereas in India it was through establishing temples. Yet both methods were one and the same to him. And although his vision encompassed the whole world, he felt and described himself as only the humble servant of his spiritual master. Whether sitting peacefully on the lawn of the manor and teasing one of the little children or directing one of his lieutenants to drop thousands and millions of books into the laps of the conditioned souls, whether meditating with great energy on the next phrase in his Srimad Bhagavatam purports or worrying about what Mrs. N was conspiring in Bombay, he always tried to serve his Guru Maharaj. So he was thinking of all these things, but he was always having that in the mind that he is serving his Guru Maharaj. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then suddenly the phone will come from Bombay. The Giriraj Maharaj will wanted Prabhupada to come immediately to India, so that now he has consulted a new lawyer called Vakil, and he wants Srila Prabhupada to be personally present so that the deed can be completed immediately. August 21, M. Raskotra, the Indian ambassador to England, attended the Janmashtami Day celebration and introduced Srila Prabhupada, expressing his appreciation of Prabhupada's great work. Prabhupada spoke, describing the advent of the Krishna as the key to peace for the troubled material world. Especially in India, he said, "We have got so much assert for understanding God. Everything is there, ready-made, but we won't accept. So what is the remedy for such disease? We are searching after peace, but we won't accept anything which is actually giving us peace. This is our disease." So the Krishna consciousness movement is trying to awaken the dormant Krishna consciousness in everyone's heart. Otherwise, how could these Europeans and Americans and other countrymen who had never even heard of Krishna 4 or 5 years ago to be taking to Krishna consciousness so seriously? Therefore, Krishna consciousness is there in everyone's heart. So now he has traveled and he's coming to Bombay. September 15, 1973. The day after his arrival, Srila Prabhupada met with Mrs. N's solicitors and heard their offers. The situation had begun to look hopeful, and yet the conclusion eluded them. Mrs. N had become charged by the public reaction to her attempt to demolish the temple. If Prabhupada would pay the full balance of 12 lakhs of rupees for the land in one payment, she told her lawyer she would agree. Prabhupada was agreeable but did not want to arrange to collect his money until he was certain that Mrs. N was actually serious. Because these things many times happened, so Prabhupada was very serious. Yes, he was ready to give the 12 lakhs, but still she was really meaning that, and it is going to happen. He is not going to do that payment. But now, actually, in this chapter, it is going to come to the conclusion as per planned. Like they will come and do the signing. It will happen now. Mrs. N was at her other home, where she had just recovered from her illness. When Mr. Asnani visited, "Mataji," he begged, "my Guru Maharaj is leaving tomorrow. If you don't come tonight, the problem with the land will go on for another year." Mrs. N agreed, and around 9 p.m., she and Mr. Asnani arrived at the home of Mr. Bhogilal Patel, where Srila Prabhupada was holding a program of Kirtan and Bhagavata discourse. Prabhupada was on the roof preparing to lecture, but hearing that Mrs. N had arrived, he interrupted the meeting and came down to his room to talk with her. They talked very briefly, and Srila Prabhupada excused himself and returned to the roof to lecture. Around midnight, he returned to his room again. Mrs. N was still waiting. She burst into tears and bowed at Prabhupada's feet. I am sorry for everything I have done, she sobbed. Please forgive me. She promised to do whatever Prabhupada wanted. Then Prabhupada looked at her compassionately and understood her heart. You are just like my daughter, he said. Don't worry, I will take care of you. I will see to all of your needs for the rest of your life. And Srila Prabhupada said he still accepted the very terms she had proposed, that he pay the remaining balance of 12 lakh plus 50,000 rupees compensation for the delay. So like this, still Prabhupada. So this is the nature of acharyas. They forgive, but they don't tolerate the cheatings and all that. Like the Srila Prabhupada, in spite of all this trouble and trying to cheat, still Prabhupada forgive and told that I will be taking care of whatever you need for rest of your life. But still, as we said, I will give that 12 lakhs rupees and also 50,000 rupees for compensation for delay in the payment. And then the deed will be signed. Prabhupada and Mr. N had set November 1 as the tentative deadline for the final signing of the conveyance. Shortly after their meeting, Prabhupada moved from Bhogilal Patel's to the home of Mr. Seeth, where working intensely, he tackled the remaining problems such as getting C Company to withdraw their claim. At 6:30 in the evening, Srila Prabhupada was seated at his low desk between two windows, his back against the wall. Mrs. N and her lawyer, the registrar, Mr. Asnani, Mr. and Mrs. Seth, and about 8 devotees were present, and the full room grew warm and stuffy. Mrs. N sat at Prabhupada's right as the registrar prepared the paper for signing. Srila Prabhupada sat gravely. The room was silent, except for the sound of the papers rustling and the pens scratching. Preparing and signing the conveyances papers took more than 20 minutes. Prabhupada paid Mrs. N, who then signed the conveyance. The land was legally ISKCON's. Giriraj, the room was hushed during the signing, and everyone felt as if a momentous event was taking place, just as if two great world powers were signing a treaty. After Mrs. N signed the document, everyone silently watched the papers being passed. She started to cry. Tamal Krishna Goswami quietly asked her why she was crying, and Mrs. N replied, "This is a shocking thing." Mr. N replied that just that day, Mr. Mathar had come and told her he had found a buyer for the land for many more lakhs than we were paying. Again, the monkey mind changed. He was crying that just one day before, one more person and came and they were asking for more money. But today, because everything was not planned, so I have to sign. I have given for less money to you, like that she was crying. Actually, as we were watching Mrs. N, we were thinking that she must be remembering all the events that had taken place, the wrongs that she had done, the death of her husband. It was a very intense, like a combination of months of struggling. So, but they were thinking like that, maybe she's emotionally feeling and crying that all the disturbances happened, how she troubled all the devotees and Prabhupada, and she lost her husband also. But that was not the thing. She was crying for, again, money. So for Prabhupada, the devotees and Prabhupada's well-wishers, their dreams and desires and efforts over the past many years were being fulfilled. So somehow, now by Krishna's mercy, it was all fulfilled. Now the land is on for. See, in this Kali Yuga, Prabhupada is telling in further paragraphs that it is very difficult to handle these kind of powerful people. Only if you have so many influences in India, such things can happen. But Srila Prabhupada just completely depend on Krishna, and Krishna arranged everything. Just because of Krishna's will, these things happen like that. Krishna, Prabhupada would tell. And immediately after that, Prabhupada celebrated by arranging for a big treat. Prabhupada was standing. Now let us start, he said. As he surprised the serving, the devotees had prepared several courses, rice, dal, many varieties of pakoras such as potato, cauliflower, and eggplant, potato sabji, wet cauliflower sabji, papads, barfi, laddus, cham cham, a milk sweet, vermicelli kheer, halwa, and a lime drink. It was a festive and a happy occasion. Mrs. Warrior, a tenant on Hare Krishna land. The devotees were all saying Jai after the signing, and all of them were very happy. Then Prabhupada gave a lecture about the Bombay project. He gave an idea to all the people of how it would be all marble. There wouldn't be a single thing that wasn't built from marble. Some were asking how it would be possible for everything to be marble, and Prabhupada explained that it was possible and could be done. He was visualizing the project, and everyone was thrilled to hear the way he was describing it. It would be like one of the 7 wonders of the world. People would be attracted from all over to come and see it. It would be a landmark in Bombay. Srila Prabhupada explained the whole project as if he saw it in his mind's eye, and he said that after it was constructed, it will be more than what we could visualize. It would be fantastic. Like that, Prabhupada had a very big plan, and he explained everything should be constructed with marble. And he, as if he's seeing in front of his eyes, he was describing everything, how it should be done. Later, Prabhupada would cite the story of the fight for the Bombay land as evidence that a person in Krishna consciousness has no problems. Now we have spent in Bombay 18 to 20 lakhs of rupees. He said, here is the happy thing that, like he said months later while on tour in Europe, the property is actually worth 50 lakhs. People are surprised and some of them are envious. But if you come, you will find that it is a very, very fine place. It is just like a paradise garden. 20,000 square yards, and we have got 6 buildings. So actually, when we come to Krishna consciousness, there are no problems. Prabhupada said this. After all these things, Prabhupada is telling, there are no problems. Then what was that all that they have come through? Prabhupada, surely the land was full of potential, but how could he say there had been no problems? No problems meant that Srila Prabhupada saw how Krishna personally arranged things for his devotees. When he had needed money, it had come in an amount that ordinarily would have been impossible to collect. And the formidable opposition Krishna had removed. Prabhupada had no organized means of income and little political influence to fight persons like Mr. and Mrs. N. But because he was surrendered to Krishna, there was no problem. All the problems of the world were created by the non-devotees who defied the injunctions of the Supreme. Anyone who is in Bhakti Yoga, Prabhupada said, he can understand that all problems are solved, we can practically see. Now the land was ISKCON's. Prabhupada could proceed to enact his vision. In attempting to construct buildings and propagate Krishna consciousness, he would meet more Maya-created problems, no doubt, but the greatest struggle had been won. The gorgeous temple of Sri Sri Radha Rasavihari would manifest. In the future, devotees and guests could come to India's gateway and stay in a first-class hotel at Hare Krishna land and conveniently imbibe the spiritual atmosphere of the temple. And the devotees, as long as they did not forget Prabhupada's example and instruction, could successfully utilize the facility in the spirit of service to Krishna. The price Prabhupada had paid in tolerance and dependence on Krishna would never go in vain. And the Srimad Bhagavatam Shloka Titikshava Karunika Suhruda Sarva Dehinam Ajata Shatrava Shanta Shadava, Sadhu Bhushana. So this what is the Lord Kapila Dev is describing who Sadhu is. So each and everything of this sloka is being depicted by Prabhupada's action even before the project is completed. Because the sadhu is tolerant, titikshava, he is undisturbed by the difficulties imposed by material nature. In Prabhupada's attempt to secure the Juhu property, he had met with enemies and difficulties, and he had been tolerant. Prabhupada had sometimes said, you have to tolerate. Karunika, merciful. When ISKCON's provisional temple had been attacked by the police, Prabhupada would have considered it a signal to leave the place and give up trying to help such ingrates by bringing them Krishna consciousness. Why go to such botheration when all these problems were there? What's the use of trying? He had already nearly 100 temples outside of India. If the people of Bombay didn't like Krishna consciousness, then why not go away and leave them to their fate? Prabhupada didn't think like that because there is so much difficulty. He was so merciful in spite of all these things. He did not neglect the people of Bombay. He still wanted to give Krishna consciousness to all of them. But no, a genuine sadhu, Prabhupada was merciful because he had come to deliver the compassionate message of Krishna consciousness. He had to tolerantly give that message to everyone. People were misguided and were living like animals only for sense gratification, and by the laws of karma, they would suffer in their next life. Seeing this unhappy predicament, Prabhupada had felt moved to help these fallen souls, even if they were unappreciative. So even if they were not helping for bringing the temple and spreading Krishna consciousness, but Prabhupada was feeling pity for them and he was compassionate. Srimad Bhagavatam also describes a sadhu as Suhrada Sadhu Sarvadehina. The only desire in his heart is the welfare of all others. Being unbounded by nationalism, he thinks of himself not as Indian or American or even a human being, but as an eternal spiritual soul meant to benefit all living entities. A sadhu Srimad Bhagavatam describes is Ajata Shatru because he never creates enemies. Although envious persons may declare themselves a sadhu's enemy, a sadhu behaves as the best friend of everyone, trying to bring everyone to Krishna. Because Prabhupada was trying to spread Krishna consciousness, envious persons would continue to oppose him. But as he submissively showed in Bombay, what can be done? We have to tolerate. Thus, even before any foundations were laid for buildings, Prabhupada had already fully demonstrated all the ornaments of the sadhu. Remaining peaceful, Shanta, and dependent on Krishna, he had become victorious. And for whoever serves such a great personality, Srimad Bhagavatam states, the door to liberation is open. Hare Krishna. Thus ends the chapter 442. Thank you so much for giving
Hari Bol, Mataji. Hari Bol. Very nice, very soothingly. So nice, Mataji, from starting to ending, and you covered so many points, and especially I like the point Bhakti Yoga. If you are in Bhakti Yoga and we are completely dedicated to Krishna and his services, he will take care of everything. That is very nice. And we can see how Srila Prabhupada has titled this Mr. N's land and how he acquired that. That is also very nice. And one thing especially I liked, when Pishima came to Mayapur and she cooked the food for Srila Prabhupada kachoris and created some kind of stomach disturbances for him, and how Srila Prabhupada completely understood and completely have faith in his mother's medicine, whatever he gave, and he again made the preparation, he had taken, consumed it, and he became very well. That is very nice, Mataji. And starting also, Srila Prabhupada said many times, I have given you the land of heaven. Now it is in your hands, for Srila Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj and others also. That is also very nice, Mataji. So many points, Mataji, in your summary, Mataji. Very nice and very so sweet to hear from you, Mataji. Thank you so much for taking out your time and coming on the call and giving this nectarian narration, Mataji. Thank you so much. So I see Vinita Mataji has raised her hand. Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Did you
Krishna,
see
Mataji.
how long you spoke? You spoke for 1 hour, 10 minutes. Wow,
Thank
very
you.
right. You said 20 minutes, 30 minutes. See how it became. Thank you, Mataji. You are completely observed in the Leela of Prabhupada. It's so nice, so calm. You're like, okay, is there anybody? You're thinking that you are speaking to you, I guess. So calm, nice, Mataji. Very beautiful. Supriya Mataji already covered main points, and it is so nice. I really like when the devotees were leaving the fan on and just going, and Prabhupada was very angry at them. So nice, Mataji. Very each and every point that you are sharing was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Mataji. Basically, it is so you're so calm and so nice, Mataji. The presentation, the way you presented, it's so beautiful. Thank you. I really loved the class. Hare Krishna. Please come, Mataji. Give your more association. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna,
Dear
devotees are like that. If nothing is there, also you will glorify like this. Thank you, Mataji. All glories to your pure heart. Thank you, Mataji.
Dear devotees, anybody would like to share their realizations for Mataji's summary? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Bhagavati Vasudha Devi, wonderful class. Thank you so much. You transported us to that part of Srila Prabhupada's Leela, London Rath Yatra, how he was very sick. And then he wanted to recuperate, but he decided to go to London, and how he was kept on walking. I mean, so descriptive and so nice. And I like the way how at the end of Bombay's struggles, you pointed out that there are no problems because of Srila Prabhupada's beautiful devotional qualities. And if not for this Bombay episode, we wouldn't have known how tolerant, how determined, how patient, and how expert he is. Like a devotee, one of the qualities to be expert. So he was expert in all that is required to serve the Lord, expert in guiding the devotees in each and every way. Very nice, Mataji. Very nice narration, and also your realizations and bringing out the qualities of Srila Prabhupada. That was so beautiful. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for sharing those points. Yes, Mataji, because that was, I think, 2 weeks before you were in that Lilamrta reading, you were talking about that Bombay issue, what had happened before this. So it came to conclusion today. So it was very nice that you were relating that and bringing that important points of Srila Prabhupada, following those nature of a sadhu. Yes, Mataji, it was very inspiring to me also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So if there are no more relations for Mataji's summary, then with Mataji's permission and with all the devotees' permission, I would like to pay my obeisances and end the call. So once again, thank you, Mataji. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Prabhupada Lilamrta ki jai. Her Grace Bhagavati Vasudha Mata Ji ki jai.
Prabhupada
so
ki
much,
jai.
Mataji.
Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Please forgive me if there was some delay or I was taking time or some mistakes. Please forgive for all those things. Hare Krishna, I was just trying my best.
Very nice, Mataji. Very nice. Thank you so much for coming on the call and sharing your realizations. It was very beautiful. So we'll end the call for today. We'll meet
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Beautiful session. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji, for joining in. Hare Bol.